If you're a regular, eagle-eyed viewer of my channel, it's likely you've noticed a new addition popping up in the background of my recent videos. This is the Option-O Lagom P64. And if you aren't familiar, it's a 64mm flat burr, single dosing, low retention grinder. Which, if we're gonna be real about it, that's essentially describing most of the home grinders that have come out in the past 2 or 3 years. I've had it for about 2 months now, and it's been my primary daily grinder for over a month on both espresso and filter. And now, with a lot of beans ground, cups brewed, and tests ran, I feel like it's time to finally put my thoughts together. So in this video, I'll be getting into everything P64, including why I chose it, but also the usual suspects in grinder reviews like features and tests. But unlike most grinders I've reviewed, this one has multiple burr options, and because of that, I'm going to break things down into 2 major sections. One focusing on the chassis, the body, and the motor of the P64, and then another section specifically on my burr choice, the SSP multi-purpose burrs. But before we get into all that grinder goodness, a quick word from this video's sponsor, STANDART magazine. STANDART's mission is to connect the world through a love of coffee, and they accomplish that by bringing it directly to your fingertips. In an increasingly digital world, STANDART sees the value of a tangible product you can touch. Each issue from cover to cover is a labor of love. To make the deal even sweeter, each issue also comes with a sample of coffee from some of the world's best roasters and a satisfaction guarantee. So if you want to stay in the know on all things coffee, help out my channel and an independent magazine, hit the STANDART link in the description or head to standartmag.com/Sprometheus and use the code Sprometheus at checkout to snag a year subscription with free shipping directly to your door nearly anywhere in the world. Choosing to get the P64 was a bit of a process. Initially, I was looking to actually replace my conical burr workhorse, the Niche Zero. But as I recently realized, I should be looking to complement the Niche's textural and balanced brews with something that's on the other end of the flavor spectrum. So that led me to seeking the advice of the coffee community on Instagram. And boy, did y'all deliver. After sifting through all the responses, it seemed the Lagom P64 was a grinder that drew recommendations from a lot of fellow coffee nerds. Even the coffee nerd himself chimed in. So after checking out all the burr options and reading up on their differences, I decided to go with the SSP multi-purpose Unimodal burrs. Described as highlighting clarity and acidity, it felt like the complete opposite flavor experience that I would get from the Niche, with all the same benefits of single dosing and low retention. But after going through all that time, all that effort, and all that research, the question is, did the Lagom P64 live up to the expectations? From the time I first saw the P64 to when I actually ordered one, I wasn't all that enticed by its appearance. Especially with how it looked prior to the updated redesign, since James reviewed it early last year. But once it was out of the box and on the counter, I couldn't help but really love it. Its simple and clean design is elegant, not gaudy, and that leads me to believe what's on the inside has more effort and thought put into it than what's on the outside. And after my last foray with a new grinder that felt like it was more form over function, the P64 feels like a complete 180. At just over 17 pounds, it's got nice heft and the materials feel solid and well machined. The grind adjustments are truly stepless and buttery smooth, with no metal on metal scraping. It also comes with these nifty stickers to place on the dial to mark important points. Mine shows where the 0 point is, i.e. where the burrs touch. And much to my delight, the P64 is permanently aligned from the factory, and requires no tools to take apart for cleaning. Which was one of the features that sealed the deal for me on the P64. As you'd expect with a single dose grinder, it comes with its own dosing cup, but also a magnetic 58mm portafilter funnel, which are all metal and color matched. Which is a nice touch, because honestly, I'm not a fan of chrome or bare metal. Also in the box was a glass spray bottle, a WD-T tool, and a measuring cup that feels like a complete afterthought. In my tests, the P64 is low retention. On average, less than 0.2 grams, but not without utilizing RDT and a couple taps. On top of that, the motor RPM and grind size will also play a role in retention. And finally, speaking of motors and RPM, a small dial on the left-hand side seamlessly adjusts the grinder from 300 to 1400 RPM, yet you'd never know based on the 1 to 9 markings on the side, but it's a small complaint. And so far in my experience, the motor has chewed through beans of varying sizes and densities at all RPMs without a hint of hesitation. Which was a little unexpected considering how quiet this motor actually is when it's running. When a grinder has burr choices, and in this case a third-party set, they should be looked at not only as part of the grinder as a whole, but also on an individual basis. The SSP multi-purpose burrs are a unimodal design that minimize fines and maximize clarity in lighter roasted coffees. For me, this description has been exactly my experience. Straight from the box with espresso and filter brews, highlighting the subtle nuances often missed by my niche on the same coffee. Since I'm fresh off the heels of a video questioning the importance of seasoning on conicals, I felt the need to run tests in the same vein on these flat burrs. First up, I pulled, tasted, and tested 6 shots of espresso. Then I ground through this Cambro filled with 6 pounds of coffee left over and collected from the past few months. And with the magic of editing, I'll spare you having to watch me go through that long, tedious process. Once I was done and the burrs cooled down, I pulled, tasted, and tested 6 more shots on the same grind point to see if or how the shots changed. As you can see from the 12 shots tested, roughly between 2 pounds and 8 pounds throughput, the shot-to-shot consistency didn't change a whole lot, if at all. The time between all of the shots was no more than 2 seconds, and the yields were all very similar with a total deviation of 0.9 grams. But the TDS and extraction percentages did take a solid bump, with the 8 pounds results showing an increase of roughly 0.3 in total dissolved solids and over 0.5% in extraction. But the question is, do these results impact flavor or overall enjoyment of the shots produced? And in my opinion, no. All of the shots were tasty with crisp clarity and consistent even to my standards. In my experience, regardless of these tests, whether the burrs are fresh out of the box or fully seasoned, whatever that happens to mean to you, I would describe these burrs as intended for black coffee. They really and truly shine when it comes to black coffee and straight espresso. The level of clarity is unmatched to anything I've had prior, on a home or commercial grinder. And with my preferences being 99.9% light to medium single origin coffees, the SSP multi-purpose burrs are a perfect fit for my tastes. On the flip side of that, they aren't as forgiving or balanced as a traditional burr set. And dialing in with them, especially with espresso, can require a fundamental shift from traditional brew ratios and shot times. Their lack of fines means if you want a traditional pull, you'll need to grind even finer, leading to shots that can end up over-extracted and bitter. Instead, they perform at their best when you embrace faster shots and wider ratios. For example, one of my favorites, turbo shots. A 40+ gram yield in 20 seconds can produce a wonderfully clear and sweet espresso with an extraction percentage well within the industry standards of 18 to 20%. As you'd expect, there's some dialing in to do with filter coffee. You may need to grind a little finer than normal, but nothing massive. In my experience, the pour-overs produced with the multi-purpose burrs, much like the espresso, were extremely clear with nuanced flavors and brightness. Where they tend to fall short is body, or texture, or mouthfeel, or whatever term you use to describe that part of the coffee drinking experience. Another point worth talking about, as they lean so heavily towards brightness and clarity, I find a general lack of balance, which could turn off those who don't like higher acidity or regularly add milk to their coffee. So far, the Lagom P64 has met my expectations, both functionally and the cup, and I think this is also a win for Option-O's marketing. Other manufacturers should take some notes. As a total package, the grinder and the burrs come together well, and deliver exactly what I wanted and nothing that I don't. The workflow is simple and clean, and will feel familiar for those who've used nearly any single dose grinder on the market. It produces what I would consider very high quality cups of coffee, regardless of the brew method. The biggest downside in my mind is the price, which here in the US is around $1,800. But don't get me wrong, I do think it's worth it, based on the materials, machining, motor, burrs, and performance. But it's very close to my personal point of diminishing returns. Since I plan on keeping the P64 as my primary grinder for the foreseeable future, I will be updating this review on a yearly basis, and also digging more into things like RPM in future videos, so keep an eye out for that. And with all that said, I think it's time I wrap this one up and pass the conversation on to you. What are your thoughts on the Lagom P64? Do you love it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? If you own one and you have the high uniformity or the cast burrs, or even the Unimodal burrs, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on those as well. As always, drop your answers to those questions and any others you may have in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications of new videos posted every Friday. Check out my Instagram at Sprometheus for content throughout the week, my blog at Sprometheus.com, my coffee at littlegiant.coffee, and as always, stay caffeinated. Ponyboy.